Good evening to all. Welcome to this 40th lecture session of Computational Fluid Dynamics. So we have been talking about turbulence and modeling in the previous lectures, and specifically in the last lecture I have talked about Reynolds averaged Navier-Stokes equation based modeling, and we have taken Bosenic approximation for relating our Reynolds stresses with the gradients of the mean velocity. And then I specifically talked about the mixing length model, which helps us in estimating the value of turbulent viscosity. Okay, and that mixing length model is nothing but one equation model and works well when we are having these free turbulent flows. Okay, however, in case of wall bounded turbulent flows, there are some errors associated with the mixing length model, so we have to go with some improved turbulence models. So the next model is nothing but K epsilon model. K epsilon is, here K refers to nothing but our turbulent kinetic energy, and epsilon is our rate of dissipation of turbulent kinetic energy. Okay, so based on this these two parameters, we are having a number of models available. Now, how to so what we have to do first, we have to actually derive the governing equations for K and epsilon. Okay, so how to do that? Before that, we want to understand little bit about the strain and stress tensors associated with our governing equation. So if you see, I have some strain SXX. So SXX is nothing but normal strain in y direction. So that will be equal to some mean strain plus turbulent strain. Okay, so mean flow strain is something which can be represented with the help of mean flow velocity gradient del u by del x. Similarly, I'll be having the turbulent strain in terms of gradient of the fluctuating velocity component. Okay, similarly, some strain, normal strain component is there for y direction and z direction. Okay, in case we have to find out the shear stresses, shear stress will also be having constitution as stress in x, mean stress plus turbulent stress. So in terms of mean stress, we del u by del y plus del v by del x, and in terms of turbulent stress, we will be having nothing but the gradients of fluctuating components. Okay, so these are the definitions of the stress term, these strain terms. So why I have included these definitions? Because when we will be deriving the governing equations for our turbulent kinetic energy K and this rate of dissipation of turbulent kinetic energy, we will be finding the involvement of these gradient terms, and we will be all together writing these gradient terms in the form of strains in order to make compact form of the equations. Okay, so now what we will be doing, if we have to find out the velocity for turbulent kinetic energy, let me give you one typical representation of our Reynolds averaged equation. So in case of Reynolds averaged equations, we are having on the left hand side rho times del u by del t plus divergence of rho u, say let me write one as u only and one as u vector, rho u vector, and this we will be having in the left hand side. So if I have to use this equation in order to derive the equation of kinetic energy, so what I have to do, I have to multiply this x momentum equation with nothing but our mean velocity capital U. Okay, where mean velocity, this is capital U, is nothing but mean velocity in x direction. Similarly, y momentum equation, I will be multiplying with capital V, and with capital W, I will be multiplying the Z momentum equation. So these are nothing but X, Y, Z Reynolds averaged momentum equations, which I have shown you in the previous lecture. Okay, so if each of these equations we multiply, first one with U, second one with V, and third one with W, what I will be getting, all the terms involving U square will be becoming nothing but our kinetic energy per unit mass in the that will be taking the form of kinetic energy per unit mass. Okay, now if I see, the overall definition of kinetic energy per unit mass will be nothing but half of u square plus v square plus w square, because u, v, w are the three components of the velocity. So that's why what we will be doing, first we will be multiplying these equations with capital U, capital V, capital W, and then we will be taking the sum of all three equations. So when we will be taking the sum of all three equations and doing some algebraic manipulations, we will be finding one equation in the form of del rho k by del t plus divergence of rho capital Ku equal to divergence of minus pu plus 2 mu u Sij minus rho u ui dash uj dash bar minus 2 mu Sij with dot product, and plus rho ui dash uj dash whole bar dot Sij. Okay, so this particular equation is nothing but called as our transport equation. This is transport equation for mean kinetic energy. Okay, because here we have multiplied with capital UVW. So the kinetic energy I am writing over here capital K, which is nothing but involving the formulation of mean velocities. Okay, so that's why I'll be calling it as transport equation for mean kinetic energy. Okay, now if you see the individual terms of this equation, so this first term is nothing but temporal derivative. Second term is nothing but convection. It represents the convection of the mean kinetic energy. In the third term, we are having multiple terms involved over here. So you can see the first term P into U is nothing but this is the transport of kinetic energy related with the pressure term. Second term shows the transport of kinetic energy associated with the viscous term, viscous diffusion. Third term over here is something which is actually related to the transport of kinetic energy due to the turbulent stresses. Then we are having some term over here. This particular term 2 mu Sij dot Sij is something which is known as production of mean kinetic energy. So this is a production term for the mean kinetic energy, and this term rho times ui dash uj dash dot Sij is something which is nothing but the destruction term for mean kinetic energy. So this represents the destruction rate of destruction of the turbulent of the mean kinetic energy. Okay, so this equation is clear to all how you have obtained and what are the different components contributing over here. Is this clear? Are you able to hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, then next we are having the equation, second equation. This particular equation is actually the important one because we are not interested in transport of kinetic energy of the mean flow, because for mean flow we can easily find out the parameters, but we are interested in nothing but the transport of turbulent kinetic energy, because we are having some fluctuating component and we are interested in finding out the values of the fluctuating components. Okay, so how to obtain this particular equation now? So this is my equation number say 1, which is actually transport equation for mean kinetic energy. Now we will be obtaining another equation number 2. So how to obtain the equation number 2? For that, what we will be doing, we will be multiplying our Reynolds averaged Navier-Stokes equations, that is x, y, and z momentum equations with u dash, v dash, and w dash. Okay, so what we will be doing, we will be multiplying our equation with nothing but the fluctuating components. So our Reynolds average Navier-Stokes equations we have multiplied with fluctuating components, and we will be taking the sum of all three equations. So once we will be taking the sum after multiplication, we will be getting one detailed equation. Now what we will be doing, from that detailed equation number 2, we will be subtracting this equation number 1, which is nothing but the which represents the contribution of mean components. So once from this I subtract this fluctuating this mean part, whatever the remaining transport equation I will be having, That is nothing but our transport equation for turbulent kinetic energy. Okay, so in this transport equation, this is the temporal evolution of turbulent kinetic energy. This particular is convective term. This is pressure. Once again, viscous stress. This is the Reynolds stress contribution. This is production term, and this is nothing but our destruction term. So this represents the rate of destruction of turbulent kinetic energy. Okay, now one important part we are having. So if you see over here, this second point, I have called it as rho times ui dash uj dash dot sij as nothing but the or even this first part 2 mu times sij dot sij dash. This I have called as nothing but the production part. So if you little bit do this tensor calculus, so you will be finding over here that the expansion of this term will be nothing but minus 2 mu s11 dash square bar 22 dash. So these are nothing but the contribution of the normal strains, and these are the contribution of the turbulent shear strains. Okay, so these are responsible for production. So why it means our production term is actually involving the contribution of both contribution of normal turbulent strains as well as the shear turbulent strains. Okay, then if we talk about this last term, as I told you, it represents nothing but destruction of our quantity, and this particular destruction is actually on per unit volume basis, because this equation is nothing but on per unit volume basis. So if I have to find out this equation on per unit mass basis, it will be becoming nothing but over here what I will be doing, first I will be multiplying this component with mu, and then I will be dividing it with rho. So it will be becoming this particular term will be becoming nothing but so this particular term will be becoming nothing but 2 mu times sij dash dot sij dash. Okay, so over here if you see this particular term, so I have told you in the reversed order. So basically this will be over here the production term, and this will be the destruction term, because we will be having production of turbulent kinetic energy because of the mean flow. Okay, so turbulence which is generated within our flow domain, within our flow structure, that is because of the shear strain of the mean flow. So that's why this is actually the production term. So please correct it. I have told it wrongly. So this term is production term, and this on per unit volume basis. If I have to find out this destruction term on per unit mass basis, I have to divide with density. Once I will be dividing with density, this mu by rho will be becoming nothing but as nothing but epsilon, where epsilon is called as rate of dissipation of turbulent kinetic energy. Okay, so rate of dissipation of TKE, and it is 2 nu times Sij dash dot Sij dash and bar over it. So what we will be doing now, we have to actually find out this term epsilon also. So for finding out the epsilon, we will be writing some transport equation for epsilon also. Okay, so whatever this correction I have suggested, is it clear to all?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so Mukesh, I am admitting you, but system is a bit slow. Okay, so over here now, after deriving the equation of turbulent kinetic energy, let us try to show it that how we can employ the complete model. Okay, so this is complete model is nothing but our K epsilon model. Okay, so what we will be doing over here, we are defining the velocity scales of large eddies as nothing but square root of the turbulent kinetic energy, and length scale of the large eddies as K2 power 3 by 2 divided by epsilon. Okay, so dimensionally this is nothing but equal to our length scale of the large eddies. Okay, now for the turbulent viscosity, eddy viscosity, I have already written one formulation, which is C times rho V into L. Now if I replace these values of velocity and length scales in terms of K and epsilon, I'll be finding rho times, and this coefficient I am writing as some coefficient C mu over here, multiplied with K square by epsilon. Okay, now with this approximation, like what I can do, I can apply this particular value in my Bosenic approximation. Okay, so in Bosenic approximation, we have written the Reynolds stresses minus rho ui dash uj dash bar in terms of turbulent viscosity into gradients of the mean velocity minus 2 by 3 rho k into del ij. Okay, and this part I can write as nothing but simply Sij. So it means now in my transport equation of the turbulent kinetic energy, wherever I have involvement of fluctuating components, I can replace this with the turbulent viscosity into the gradient of mean velocities. If I do so, this will be becoming nothing but my equation of the turbulent kinetic energy, where we are having temporal evolution, then convective part, this is diffusive part, this is nothing but referred to as the production of turbulent kinetic energy, and this term is specifically called as the dissipation of turbulent kinetic energy. And how to, now question comes, how to find out value of this epsilon. So for epsilon, we will be solving separate transport equation, which is in one sense similar to that of the transport equation of turbulent kinetic energy, and we are having temporal, convective, diffusive terms over here, and along with that we are having one term for production and one term for the destruction. Okay, now if you see, so what we are doing over here with the K epsilon model, nothing but we are applying our Bosenic approximation. But in the Bosenic approximation, when we calculate this mu t, eddy viscosity, for finding out the value of eddy viscosity, we are using our means length scales we have represented in the terms of turbulent kinetic energy and its dissipation. Okay, so that's why in order to find out the value of K and epsilon, we have to solve these two additional equations. So due to this reason, K epsilon model is also known as two equation model. Now if you see these equations along with the equation of eddy viscosity, these are involving some coefficients, some constant terms. So C mu is one constant. Then similarly, this sigma k, which is referred to as turbulent Prandtl number for turbulent kinetic energy. Similarly, sigma E is there, another constant, and in the production and destruction term of rate of dissipation, we are having some coefficients C1 epsilon and C2 epsilon. Now, what we will be doing, we have to specify some values to these constants. So you can see all together we are having 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 constants involved over here. Now the K epsilon model is the most widely tested model with the practical and industrial problems in literature. So that's why there are well established values of these coefficients available in literature. So the values of the coefficients are given over here. So these are the values which are taken from the literature and are applicable for almost all types of engineering applications. Okay, then when we are using the K epsilon model, obviously we have to give some boundary conditions. So generally what we do for the inlet, if we are having some wall bounded flow, because over here we are talking about wall bounded flow, so we will be having, say, this is the flow through a pipe. So while flow will be entering at the inlet, we have to specify at inlet some boundary condition for turbulent kinetic energy and rate of its dissipation. So what we do estimate the value of K and epsilon. Obviously, estimating the value of K and epsilon is very, very difficult, and it is not always known a priori. So that's why what we do, we use this formulation of turbulent intensity, where K is nothing but 2 by 3 U reference into Ti square, where Ti is nothing but our turbulent intensity. So we take some approximate value of this turbulent viscosity, this turbulent intensity, say 5% to 20% range. So this indicates that how much turbulence inlet is having when flow is actually entering. Okay, and with the help of this turbulent intensity, we find some value of K, and similarly we find some value of epsilon, and we substitute these values of K and epsilon as inlet parameter. For outlet parameter, because if we consider fully developed velocity profile, so we can simply give zero gradient condition, which is del K by del N equal to del epsilon by del N equal to 0. Similarly, now if we are having, say, flow over a flat plate, so for the flow over a flat plate, we will be having one far field boundary condition, where at some point of time gradients will be decaying. So for this far field boundary condition also, we can use dk by dn and d epsilon by dn equal to 0. But while we are using K epsilon turbulence model, it becomes very, very important that what type of boundary condition is to be given for the wall. So there is one limitation of this K epsilon turbulence model. When we do integration of the kinetic energy and its dissipation equation for the cells near the wall, we find that this epsilon takes very large value. Okay, this takes very large value, and it actually destabilizes the numerical solution of our turbulent flow. So that's why when we are using the K epsilon model, near the wall region, we have to give some special treatment for that particular wall, and that treatment is actually nothing but derived based upon our theoretical knowledge of the turbulence. So in terms of near wall region, we have seen that when our y plus value is within the range of 30 to 500, we are having some logarithmic law in between the velocity variation. Okay, so using this logarithmic law, we can relate the value of turbulent kinetic energy K and rate of dissipation of its rate of dissipation epsilon by taking the knowledge from the theoretical law of wall, which is logarithmic law over here. And what we do within this range, where we are having y plus value from less than 500, actually we don't solve the integration of turbulent kinetic energy and its dissipation equation. Rather, for all the cells in this particular range, we calculate value of K and epsilon using these simple algebraic formulations, and these algebraic formulations are nothing but derived from the theoretical knowledge of the turbulence. So this is one significant limitation of the K epsilon turbulence model, that we have to give some special treatment for the wall, because when we will be doing integration, from the integration we will be finding that this epsilon will be taking large value, and that will be destabilizing our numerical computations. Okay, and in terms of wall boundary condition, exactly at the wall, for the cells we can calculate with the help of these two formulations, but if exactly at the wall we have to find out the value, generally we specify K and epsilon to be 0. Okay, so for the wall we specify K and epsilon equal to 0, but in the boundary layer region, for which y plus is less than 500, basically we don't solve our transport equations of K and epsilon. Rather, we use this approximation from the theoretical knowledge to find out value of K and epsilon. Okay, similarly, if when we are using, say, additionally our scalar transport equation. For example, when heat transfer is also involved with the flow, so we have to use formulation of temperature condition also. So for that we use T plus equal to T minus TW Cp rho U tau upon QW. That will be taking actually this particular form. So over here, this sigma is nothing but your Prandtl number for turbulent condition. This is Prandtl number for laminar condition, and this P is some function whose value depends upon the ratio of laminar to turbulent Prandtl number. Okay, the ratio of these two actually decides. Now, when we are having the values of P and the sigmas known, U plus already we are knowing, so we can find out the value of T plus also in the near wall region. However, for other fluctuating component of the scalar, we will be like having some scalar transport equation which we have to solve in the region away from the wall. Okay, this point is clear?
Yes,
Abhishek, is this point clear?
yes, sir.
Okay, let me now go to next part. Then, as I told you that in case of K epsilon model, we are having some limitations near the near wall region. So this particular limitation will be only in the near wall region when we are working with the high Reynolds number flow. When we are working with the low Reynolds number flow, then we are having more issues with the K epsilon turbulence model. So that's why for low Reynolds number, there is some corrections are suggested in the K epsilon turbulence model in order to include the wall effect. So for that, if you see earlier in turbulent viscosity, we were having only rho times C mu into K square by epsilon. Now along with K square upon epsilon, we are having some function f of mu also over here. Okay, so we are having some function f of mu. And transport equations for kinetic energy and epsilon are almost same. The only correction comes in our epsilon equation. So in epsilon equation, in production and destruction term, now we are having additional functions f1 and f2 also. So now we are having three different functions which are coming additionally when we are having actually low Reynolds number flow. Okay, so if you see this first function f mu, that is nothing but equal to 1 minus exponential of Reynolds number y and this entire square into 1 plus 20.5 divided by turbulent Reynolds number. So this turbulent Reynolds number is nothing but it is involving our turbulent kinematic viscosity. Similarly, in terms of Fu, I can define these functions F1 and F2. So these are nothing but the correction terms to our equation. Which equation? Epsilon equation, because epsilon equation is the one which results in instabilities into the numerical solution while we are having actually stronger influence of the wall. Okay, so for that reason we are having these additional treatment, and moreover majority of the time though we define epsilon equal to 0 simply as the wall boundary condition, but sometimes we define this epsilon tilde as epsilon minus 2 mu del square root k by del eta square, where this epsilon tilde is actually taken as 0 and k boundary condition is actually obtained from this particular formulation. Okay, sorry, epsilon boundary condition is obtained from this particular formulation. Okay, so this is nothing but one additional improvement or modification of the standard K epsilon model when we are dealing with low Reynolds number, and this modification comes only to account for the wall effect, because this epsilon equation doesn't work well near the wall. Okay, now this is assessment of the K epsilon turbulence model. So you can see over here we are having some first one is as some temperature profile. So this is actually some temperature profile, and second one is some measurement of, I think, vorticity. Okay, and you can see over here in these temperature and vorticity contours, the bottom part represents the measurement from experiments, and top portion represents the predictions from numerical simulations which employed the K epsilon turbulence models. So you can see over here that the qualitative nature of measurements and prediction is almost similar. However, if you see in terms of the specific features, there are certain differences in between the experimental measurements and the predictions. Okay, so if you have to, similar holds true for the second figure also. So if you have to further improve this model, then actually we have to go for some detailed modeling of the Reynolds stresses. Okay, so the limitations of mixing length and K epsilon model are that here we are considering some term mu t, where this mu t is nothing but our turbulent viscosity or eddy viscosity, and we are representing turbulent stresses by using the Bosenic approximation. And while we are obtaining the value of this turbulent viscosity, we are considering a single length scale and single velocity scale for our entire domain. Okay, so the assumption comes that this makes our this particular assumption of constant eddy viscosity makes the isotropic nature of the eddy viscosity throughout the entire domain. However, in practical scenarios, what will be happening? We will be having the presence of different length scales of the turbulent eddies, different velocity scales. So because of this, our turbulent viscosity will not be of isotropic nature. So for free surface flows and wall bounded flows, this type of assumption works well. However, if we are having some of the flows where there is strong rotational effect and there is strong swirling motion, in such kind of situations, this assumption of isotropic eddy viscosity doesn't work well. Okay, so in order to improve the models, what we do, we go for some modeling which we call as nothing but Reynolds stress model. So in case of Reynolds stress model, we define this Rij. So Rij is something which is called as kinematic Reynolds stress. Okay, so this is called as kinematic Reynolds stress. So what is this Rij? This is nothing but when we define Reynolds stress, we write minus rho ui dash uj dash bar. So in terms of kinematic Reynolds stress, we will be dividing it with nothing but density. So once we divide it with density, we call this as nothing but kinematic Reynolds stress. Now over here, what we do, we write down some transport equation for kinematic Reynolds stress. So you can see over here d by dt of Rij. So this d by dt I can write as separately del by del t of Rij plus Cij. So this Cij is nothing but represent the convection of Reynolds stress. Then this Pij is something which is called as the transport of the Reynolds stress due to pressure term. This is transport of the Reynolds stress due to diffusion term. This is actually nothing but dissipation of the Reynolds stress. This term pi ij results in production of the Reynolds stress due to the normal turbulent stresses, and this omega ij is something which is called as production of the turbulent stress due to rotational turbulent strains. Okay, so this is one very, very important equation. Like once again, I am repeating it. So this is the temporal evolution of the Reynolds stress. This is convective contribution. This is contribution due to pressure. This is diffusive contribution. This is dissipation of the turbulent stress. And this pi ij term is production of turbulent stress due to nothing but our normal deformations, means our normal strains, normal turbulent strains. And gamma ij is production of turbulent stress due to shear turbulent strains. Okay. So once we are having this governing equation, main governing equation, now this main governing equations we have to solve for all the individual Reynolds stresses. Okay, for example, first time I'll be writing this for rho u dash square bar, then for rho v dash square bar, then for rho w dash square bar. So for all these three, there will be three individual equations. Similarly, one for rho u dash v dash bar, one for rho v dash w dash bar, and one for rho u dash and w dash bar. So as we are having six different turbulent stresses involved, so for each of the stress we will be actually writing separate transport equation for that stress. Now if you can see in terms of convective part, it will be nothing but divergence of rho ui dash uj dash into u, and this is the contribution because of the pressure, this is the production because of the rotation, this is deformation over here, diffusion term, and these are nothing but the relationship in between the turbulent kinematic viscosity and turbulent kinetic energy and epsilon, and these are the values of coefficients c, mu, and sigma k. Okay, and along with that, because we have to also find out the value of epsilon ij, so epsilon ij over here is related with the Kronecker delta operator, and pi ij over here is the term which represents production of the turbulent stresses due to normal turbulent strains. Okay, and C1 and C2 are some constants over here whose values are given as 1.8 and C2 equal to 0.6. Okay, so what we are having over here, like this, we will be having individual stress equations. So for 6 different Reynolds stresses, we are having 6 transport equations, and along with these 6 transport equations, because epsilon is also involved, we have to solve one additional equation for transport of epsilon. Okay, so because of this, these 7 extra equations involved in order to take care of the turbulence, this particular Reynolds stress model is also called as 7 equation model. Okay, so it is popularly known as 7 equation model, and due to the involvement of large number of equations over here, this is actually very much time consuming. So majority of the time we do not use it for our industrial problems, because their like time bounded solutions are more important, and it is actually very time consuming, which is more importantly useful for the academic purposes. Okay, and when so this is the equation of additional equation of dissipation term, which I told you that we have to solve. So this is nothing but similar to that of the equation which we have used in case of our standard K epsilon turbulence model. Okay, now these are the boundary conditions. So these are also similar to that of K epsilon model, that near the inlet we have to specify value of stress as well as epsilon. Then for outlet and symmetry, we can specify gradients to be 0. For free stream, either we can specify the magnitudes to be 0, means either I can specify Dirichlet type condition or I can specify Newman type boundary condition. And for the solid wall over here, once again, what we are considering, we are using some wall functions in order to find out the value. So these are the values of wall functions in terms of kinetic energy, epsilon, and length scales. Okay, so based on this, we can actually estimate the values for the solid wall. Okay, and this is the validity of this one Reynolds stress model. So you can compare, this is the flow over an aerofoil, and in this aerofoil over here in this section there is some recirculation in the flow. So this recirculation will not be properly captured if we use standard K epsilon turbulence model. Okay, so 2 output parameters have been reported over here. One is coefficient of pressure and one is coefficient of skin friction. Okay, so if you see, this is compared with K epsilon model, RSM model, and experiment. So you can see over here that your K epsilon model is showing certain deviation over here, whereas your RSM model is actually showing close match with the experimental data. Similarly, here also you can see where K epsilon model is showing significant deviation, whereas the RSM model is actually quite close. So it means that RSM models are suitable for flows involving significant rotation and swirling motion. Okay. So till this point, it is clear? Is it clear till this point? Okay. Now let me move to the next part. Next part is something which is called as a two-layer K epsilon model. Okay. So this two-layer K epsilon model basically takes care of the significant rise in value of epsilon in the near wall region. Okay. So in this two-layer K epsilon model, what we do, we write Reynolds number as y square root k by nu. If it is greater than 200, then we use this particular formulation for turbulent viscosity, which is similar to that of the standard K epsilon model. When our Reynolds number is less than 200, at that time we find this mean, this length scale of the turbulent eddies, and our epsilon value is also actually corrected. So once this epsilon value is corrected, based on that we define some new turbulent viscosity, and we call this turbulent viscosity as nothing but viscous dominant turbulent viscosity. Okay, and this viscous dominant turbulent viscosity, and over here we are having this coefficient A also. So this A is taken as equal to 70, and using this actually, now what we will be doing, we will be using simple approximation, bosonic approximation for Reynolds stresses, but the difference is that in the near wall region we will use mu TV, and in the region away from the wall we will be using mu TT. So this is nothing but a standard K epsilon model only, but in standard K epsilon model we are using two different layer wise turbulent viscosities. Okay, so one viscosity is applicable for the turbulent dominant region, and one is this particular viscosity is applicable for the near wall region where viscous effects are dominant. Okay, so now if you see near the transition boundary REY nearly equal to 200, if you see if we are not accounting some smooth transition of this turbulent viscosity, then obviously there will be some jump condition, and that jump condition may lead to numerical instability. Okay, so in order to have smooth transition across the boundary, we define mu t equal to some f mu times mu tt plus 1 minus f mu times mu tv, where f mu is equal to 0 near wall. Okay, at the wall. So at wall this f mu will be equal to 0. So when f mu is equal to 0, so at wall your viscosity will be nothing but equal to turbulent viscous viscosity. And once we are moving away from the wall, the value of this f increases gradually, and in the complete turbulent region its value become 1. So once it will be becoming 1, then in entire turbulent portion we will be having nothing but our eddy viscosity. Okay, so this type of model is called as two-layer K epsilon model. Then there is one more model which is based on the renormalization, and it is called as renormalization K epsilon model. In case of renormalization K epsilon model, the kinetic energy equation and its dissipation equation are almost same. We are having occurrence of some additional coefficients. So you can see we are having some divergence of alpha k into mu effective. So in place of turbulent eddy viscosity, we are writing some mu effective. Similarly, here also we are writing some mu effective, and these coefficients C1 epsilon and C2 epsilon are also actually C2 epsilon is as it is, but this C1 epsilon is actually modified. So where this C1 epsilon is nothing but coefficients involved with the production term. So this coefficient is involved with production term over here. Okay, so here what you will be doing, you will be writing effective viscosity as nothing but eddy viscosity. So this is turbulent viscosity or eddy viscosity plus our laminar flow viscosity. I can call it as laminar flow viscosity or molecular viscosity. Okay, and this turbulent viscosity is calculated using the same way as we have calculated in standard K epsilon turbulence model. So this is one more modification which is called as renormalization K epsilon model, which modifies some specific terms of our K epsilon equations and use some effective velocity, which includes the contribution of molecular viscosity also along with the eddy viscosity. Okay, and these coefficients are given over here. So this type of modification is referred to as RNG K epsilon model, and this is also done in order to limit the value of epsilon in the near wall region. So when we use this particular model, we need not to use any special treatment of wall based on the theoretical turbulence model. So here now we can simply integrate these K and epsilon equation for our entire flow domain. Okay, so we need not to do any special treatment of the wall. Okay. Then there is one more model which is called as Splart-Elmers model. So Splart-Elmers is nothing but our advanced turbulence model. So this model is something which is given as and modification to Reynolds stress model. So Reynolds stress model was working fine, but one major issue with Reynolds stress model was that it was computationally expensive. Okay, so in order to limit these computational expenses, what has been done, this advanced model has been proposed, which actually which solves one transport equation for the kinematic turbulent viscosity mu tilde. Okay, so over here you can see this mu t eddy viscosity is given as rho times mu tilde. This mu tilde is something called as kinematic turbulent viscosity times FV1. This FV1 is some function of mu tilde by mu, where mu is actually molecular kinematic viscosity and mu tilde is turbulent kinematic viscosity. Okay, so now the modification is that while we will be using the Bosenic approximation, in the Bosenic approximation, instead of using mu t as equal to rho times mu t, we will be using this new formulation. So this new formulation is substituted over here, and the another modification is that now earlier we were considering eddy viscosity as isotropic, constant throughout. In this model, we don't consider eddy viscosity to be constant, but we solve some equation for transport of the eddy viscosity. So over here, you can see this equation is nothing but transport equation for eddy viscosity. So this is transport equation for, I can call it as not eddy viscosity. I have to exactly mention it as turbulent kinematic viscosity, which is represented with symbol V tilde. So this takes care of the anisotropic nature of the turbulence. So by solving this equation, actually, we are now taking care of the different values of viscosity in the different regions of the domain. Okay, and while we are solving this equation, we are considering importance of rotation component. So you can see over here this term CB1 rho nu tilde into gamma tilde is something which is taking care of the rotational component. So this rotational component is given over here. It is, and this mean vorticity vector is something which we can calculate in terms of the mean velocity gradients, and these are the values of different constants involved over here. Okay, so the beauty of this Splart-Elmers model is that here we use Reynolds stresses, we calculate using the Bosenic approximation only, but the anisotropic nature of turbulence, it takes care by having transport of nothing but our turbulent kinematic viscosity. Okay, so this equation gives different values of kinematic viscosity in the different parts of the domain, and as we are only using one additional equation to solve the transport of this viscosity term. So that's why this model is called as one equation model. Okay. Then apart from using K and epsilon only to specify the length scales, there are some other parameters also which can be involved. For example, omega is equal to epsilon by K, where omega is called as nothing but turbulent frequency. Okay, so instead of epsilon, now if we substitute this formulation, I can find out turbulent viscosity in the form of K and omega. Now, if we once again do this substitution, epsilon equal to K into omega into our transport equation, we will be finding that this is our transport equation for turbulent kinetic energy, and this will become transport equation for nothing but turbulent frequency. Okay, and these are the constants involved over here. So this K omega model is also nothing but two equation model only, and in this two equation model, instead of having K and epsilon, we are using turbulent frequency, transport of turbulent frequency. Okay. Now, though this model has been tried because it was nothing but slight change in the standard K epsilon model, but the limitation of this model is that when we specify the boundary conditions for like K and epsilon earlier, in case of K and omega, we have to specify the boundary conditions for K and omega. So when we specify the boundary condition for K and omega, so this boundary condition is something which is nothing but based on some approximation. So this particular K omega model is very, very sensitive to the value of omega which we have specified. Okay, so this is one strong limitation of this K omega model, that when we use or specify the value of omega either at inlet or at any far field, this model is very much sensitive to the value of omega. If that value of omega is not correctly chosen, it may give significant variation in the result. So that's why many of the times we have to do some sensitivity analysis in order to find out the exact value of omega. Okay. So due to this particular nature of the Wilcox K omega model, Mentor has done some has used some smoothing function in order to make it more stable. Okay, so in this is the modified omega equation from Mentor's model, and these are the coefficients involved. And in his model, what he has done, instead of having some sudden jump in the value of omega, they have used some smooth transition. Okay, and this smooth transition is actually involving, and moreover, while they are calculating the value of turbulent viscosity, its formulation is also modified. Okay, so this Mentor's SST K omega model is nothing but an improved version of Wilcox K omega model, which actually improves the stability by decreasing the sensitivity of this equation to the inflow or far stream specified boundary conditions of omega. Okay. One more model is there, which is called as algebraic stress model. So algebraic stress model is once again an advanced turbulence model, which is an improvement to the RSM models. So in case of RSM model, basically the terms involving convection and diffusion are actually the most computationally expensive. Okay, so this algebraic stress model, what it does, the temporal term, the terms involving diffusion and convection of the Reynolds stresses are replaced with nothing but some approximations corresponding to the some approximations of turbulent kinetic energy. Okay, because it was found that convection and diffusion of the turbulent stresses is nothing but proportional to the convection and diffusion of the turbulent kinetic energy. Okay, so once this approximation is used, the calculation of Reynolds stresses becomes quite simple, and the complexity of solving convection and diffusion component of the Reynolds stresses actually decreases. So this particular approximation is something which is called as algebraic stress equation model. However, it is not very much popular in commercial CFD packages for solving the practical and industrial turbulent flow problems. Okay, now with this I will stop at this point, and we will have further discussion. We will have further discussion on large eddy and DNS simulations in our next lecture. Okay.